cruise ships are full of Karens. So this happened to me. After a disappointing buffet dinner of the same food that was also served in the main dining, we wanted some machine soft serve ice cream. We wandered to find it. We found it. As we approached the machines, there were 3 little kids, ages 8-11, getting ice cream, no adult with them. They were laughing while dumping their ice cream cones on the machine trays, making piles of messes of soft serve and cones, then trying to redo it again and again. There were 4 separate piles of them doing it. The machine was still dripping ice cream from the spouts BC of their bad behavior. So I start to fill my cone with swirl ice cream. The kids come back before I'm even done. They look ready to cause more stupidity. So I turn to them and say, "Stop messing around with the ice cream. I saw what you did." I go to sit down with my husband. Then a few seconds later, some guy and his kid walk around from behind me, and the kid slaps his hand super hard on top the railing separating the walkway from the table we sat at. The dad slapped his hands on a support beam when walking. Like father, like son. When they were a few feet further away, I said, "How rude," like Stephanie Tanner from Full House, only loud enough for my husband to hear. Then a few minutes later, some 40-year-old lady in swimsuit and towel walked hurriedly past us, looking around probably for her lost kids. She then turned to me and loudly, forcefully asked me if I was the one who criticized her kids for getting ice cream. I said yes. They were messing around, acting like ice cream cones were toys, dumping their ice cream into piles and thinking it was funny. Then came back to do it again, so I told them, "Stop messing around. I saw what you did." That's really bad behavior. They should be supervised if they're gonna disrespect public spaces that other people use. Her rebuttal, "Well, my kids are trying to have a fun vacation with their cousin." Me, "You should supervise little kids." Her, "Well, someday when you have kids, you'll be annoyed and offended when other people try to tell of your kids." Me, "I wasn't expecting some kids to be messing around with ice cream like it's a toy. That's your job to supervise them and control them, not other people." Her, "We were in the next room over in the buffet waiting for the kids to come back to us with their ice cream cones. Then her husband comes over and he goes, "Yo, well, there was some kid walking past her and slammed his hands on the railing, but then she was rude and called out how rude they were." I was rude? Some 10-year boy was inches away from slapping me instead of a walkway railing. Karen, "You shouldn't tell other people's kids how to act or tell parents how to raise their kids." Karen again, "Don't you ever dare talk to my kids, again, you female dog." As she leaned over the walkway railing, he grabbed her like a mime with a cane and told her to let it go and walk away. He probably didn't want to see her attack someone, at the bare minimum, like he was done with the argument BC. He was so used to her acting this way. This screams out entitlement, bad habits, constantly not supervision their kids, not enforcing rules of behavior to the kids, not behaving like adults should, setting bad examples of behavior for their kids, making excuses with unnecessarily details and story plots to deflect the blame away from themselves, etc. In hindsight, if the lady had been more calm in her approach, I would have said my thoughts to her, among the following. Just BC, the cruise ship curfew for minors is 10 p.m. It doesn't mean you can let your under 12 kids walk away to do their own things, especially after dark. Just because maybe you let your kids go, get treats at the neighborhood market or corner store at home, unsupervised, doesn't mean they can do the same thing in an unfamiliar environment after dark while on vacation, especially on a cruise ship. Kids left unsupervised will let loose and misbehave because they know their parents aren't watching, but forget other adults might remind them of the rules of society. Adding in extra details about being on vacation with their cousins, and I, some total stranger, ruined their vacation BC. I called them out on their misbehavior and misuse of private property. Supervise your kids with a tight then looser leash. Stand 10ft away to let them serve themselves, and every next time move 5ft back further so they know how to be responsible and respectful of the environment. It's okay for other people to say sternly, "You're misbehaving." This is for everyone, not just you, so please use it right, when your kids are acting like they're at home. And finally, just because I didn't have kids or babies next to me doesn't mean you can say, when you have kids someday, you'll be offended too if someone corrects their behavior for you. Lady, if I had kids, they would have been in the kids club, nursery, sleeping the room with my mill, etc., not messing around with public use shared self-serve ice cream machines like toys. Story 2. My entitled mother preaches to me about weight loss. I am 16 female, am 5'16", 86 kgs. I'm on the chubby side, but definitely not dramatically overweight. I am active. My doctor says I am healthy. I have struggled with EDs and body issues since I was 11 year. About 8 months ago, I found a YouTuber who really inspired me to get fitter and still have the freedom to eat and do what I want in moderation. She was really helped with my body image, and I have began recovery. I have gained weight where I was 73 kilos 7 months ago, since I started gaining weight and eating more. My mother, 49F, has been making comments on my body, my weight, posture, peach size, telling me to lose weight when I can't fit into my clothes I've had since I was 13, telling me that my generation is so obese and unhealthy. I eat pretty clean, I go on runs, and I walk to work every day as well as yoga. By this time last year, I was iron and B12 deficient, skinny, dizzy, and fainting. Today I was cooking in the kitchen making a salad with chicken, bacon, lettuce, cucumber, lemon juice, parmesan, carrot, and tomato. My mother looked over my shoulder and said, "Oh, that smells nice. I personally wouldn't eat it, too many calories. But good for you not caring if you gain weight." I brushed it off and just smiled. Later that night, around dinner, I went to serve myself the pasta she had cooked. She looked at me and said, "Honey, seriously, you had that salad already. You need to get your weight under control." I lost it. I told her that just because she starved herself doesn't mean I want to anymore, and that I have been the healthiest I have been since I was 12. She denies having an ED but brags about eating nothing for 2 whole days. She started crying. My father, who was sitting in the room, said, "Don't shame your mother because you can't handle her trying to help you." He is an obese 48-year-old with a beer belly. The shaming started at the beginning with shy comments about how fast I was gaining weight since I was eating more and have now evolved to this. I'm seriously starting to go back downhill. I think often about how much weight I have gained and my self-esteem has plummeted. Story 3. Parent thinks accident is my fault, accusing me of touching her child. This may be slightly under-detailed or missing detail as this happened about a day ago. Context. I was at a roller skating rink, and as I am decent at skating, I was going pretty fast. On that specific session, it was quite packed and crowded on the rink. So as I am going at a decent speed, a kid cuts directly in front of me from the middle to the barrier. As I mentioned before, it was quite packed, so to avoid people at the time, I was next to the barrier. As I was moving in that direction, I couldn't turn away from her, as there wasn't enough room, which is the same reason I couldn't stop. So I tried and stopped myself from fully slamming into her, but I still bashed into her a bit hard. As I was stopping, I looked to see if she was okay, while saying sorry as she went out of view because of all the people. Luckily, because it happened right next to the barrier, she managed not to fall. The accusation. Skipping to later in the session, I get a cramp, so I go off the rink to sit down. Then the entitled parent, who actually had the Karen haircut, comes over and starts having a go at me for touching her child and leaving a mark. I say something like, "She cut directly in front of me, and I was stopping myself from slamming into her." She then says that because I am bigger than her, I should have avoided it. So I then say something along the lines of, "What else do you want me to do? Nothing," and slam into her. The parent responded by saying she had been skating for 40 years, and I was half tempted to say back, "Then you should know accidents happen." But I resisted. Instead, I said, "Tell your child not to cut directly in front of people," to which she threatened to tell the workers what I had done, which she never did. This wouldn't have done anything, as there is a big sign on the walls telling you to skate at your own risk, and the cameras would show the child cutting in front of me. After this, she storms off, telling me to never touch her children again, to which I respond with a sentence going over the previous points I made as she stormed off. Side note, I also saw her looking as if she was telling her friends about what I had done for about 10 minutes, but it could have been a normal conversation, but then she gets on skates and proceeds to stand at the barrier talking for about another 10 minutes, which if she'd been skating for 40 years, as she mentioned before, she should know that isn't allowed.